Okay, so we've already covered some basic outlining and the primary differences between a speech outline and a written outline, which are signposting, transition statements, and internal summaries. So now let's talk a little bit more about what the content is going to be in those outlines. So just to review, introduction is going to be first Roman numeral, then you're going to transition, the main body, the conclusion, your bibliography. Now what are we going to put in these parts? Let's start with the introduction. Your introduction should be written out word for word and memorized. The majority of your speech is not going to be memorized. You will have rehearsed it quite a bit, so you'll be very familiar with it, but you're going to also have the spontaneity of that delivery. But your introduction and your conclusion should be written out word for word and memorized. This way, when you get up there, you are immediately going into your memorized introduction. So you're not going to get thrown. By the time you get to the end of what you've memorized, you'll be into it, and then you can start speaking extemporaneously. This will also help you connect with the audience from the beginning. You're not trying to remember what was my first point, what was my second point. You've got that first part memorized, so you get up there, you're delivering it, you're making eye contact, you're looking at people, and by the time you get to the end of your memorized part, you've got your audience's attention, you've engaged with them. You've made it interesting from the very beginning, which is the other reason that we do that. So that way we don't fumble. We deliver that significant information right from the beginning. We capture them, and then you're on a roll, and you can move into the part where you are just remembering the main points and you're speaking a little more spontaneously. The point of an introduction is to prepare the audience to listen to you. It's to get their attention, to get them invested and interested. So we always have these same 5 steps in every introduction. And when you do your outline, you're going to actually have this written out like this under Roman numeral 1, introduction, and then this will actually be the letter A, capital letter A, then in outline format. A, attention getter. B, significance. 3, credibility. 4, thesis statement. I'm sorry, not 3. A, B, C, D, E. And again, I apologized, which you're not supposed to do when giving a speech. So we all mess up. When I evaluate this later, I'll say, I got to work on not apologizing. The reason I have it numbered here is so that it helps you remember the 5 steps. So the first one is the attention getter. The attention getter is the very first statement that comes out of your mouth. So many people get up and start with, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm here to talk to you about such and such. That is boring. You're already starting to lose the audience. You want to get up and you want to say something really significant, powerful, that captures their attention. Some of the things you can start with: rhetorical question, a story, a startling statement, a startling statistic, or you could say something funny. A rhetorical question. This is a question that you're not expecting them to answer. That is not the same thing as asking a question and ignoring their answer. You ask a question like, how many people here know how to change a tire? And then you move on with your speech without using that information. Now you've aggravated your audience. Why did you ask me? You didn't care about the answer. A rhetorical question, the audience knows they're not expecting an answer. You're not expecting an answer. So have you ever thought about such and such? Have you wondered why this is happening? Have you ever wondered how you could do X? Those are rhetorical questions. The audience knows that you want them to think about it. You don't actually expect them to answer. You could tell a story. Stories are very engaging. Everybody wants to hear a story. Everybody is interested in that. And if you tell an appropriate story, it can also let the audience know why they should care about the topic. The story can be true. It can be something that happened to you, something that happened to someone else, or it can be a fictional story. Just never misrepresent and say a fictional story really happened. You have to say whether or not it's true or not. But don't ever misrepresent, because then if it comes out, you've lost whatever credibility that you have. You could start with a startling statement, something that you're going to surprise the audience. Everyone in here is going to be dead within the next 5 minutes. All right, not 5 minutes, 50 years. That may seem like a big difference, but actually not really. That would be a startling statement. You could start with a startling statistic. This is some kind of numerical representation of what's going on that you think will surprise them. Every year in America, 1.5 million cats and dogs are killed because nobody wants them. That's a true statistic. And that would be a great startling statistic to start out a talk about the importance of spaying and neutering pets. You can start out with humor, but humor can be a little tricky because if you say something that you think is funny and the audience doesn't, then you've lost them. And instead of having gotten their attention, you've already lost their attention and they're already starting to question you as a speaker. We don't all have the same kind of humor, and frankly, we're not all funny, and usually if you're not funny, you're the last one to know. Now, the way you can get around this is make sure your humor is connected to your topic. So then you can use that as a transition into the topic, whether or not they found it funny. So if your humor is connected, that's sort of your safety net, what if they don't actually think what you said was that funny. So to review, the first part of your introduction is an attention getter. It could be a rhetorical question, a story, a startling statement, a startling statistic, or humor. The purpose of that is to get their attention. Now, the second point is your significant statement. The significant statement is, why is this material, why is what you're talking about significant to your audience? Why should they care about what you're talking about? So just like when you're taking a class, if you can see how what you're learning is going to be useful for you, you're more invested in that learning material. Same thing when you're giving a speech. If your audience knows why they should care about the topic, you've already gotten them more interested in what you're saying. The next one is your credibility statement. Your significant statement is why the information is significant to the audience. Your credibility statement is why you are a credible source of that information. Why should they listen to you about this? So what are your qualifications to talk about this? Have you worked on a project? Have you taken a class? Have you conducted research? Have you done a lot of research to prepare for this particular speech? Have you read 20 different sources? Why are you an authority? Because you've convinced me I want to know about this, but you have to convince me that I should listen to you when you talk about this. Then comes your thesis statement. This is where in one sentence you state, here is the point that I'm making in this speech. And then your preview. Your preview is where you let the audience know what the structure of your speech is. And when you've done a good outline, it's easy to do that because essentially what you're doing is you're telling them what the main points of the body of the outline are. First, I'm going to talk about this, then I'm going to talk about this, finally I'll conclude with this. That's a preview. Sometimes you can combine your thesis statement with your preview statement. Sometimes you want to keep them separate. So to review, the purpose of your introduction is to prepare the audience to listen to your speech. It has 5 steps: attention getter, significance, credibility, thesis statement, and preview. And you want this written out in your outline, and it should say capital letter A, attention getter, colon, and what part of your introduction is your attention getter, capital B, significance, and then what is your significance statement, and you should be able to read what's coming after all of these in a row and have them make sense. So then you're going to transition. Transitions are bridges between one part of your speech to the next. It's very easy for an audience member to get confused and lost, so a bridge helps them know, oh, here's where we are. Oh, they're finishing that first part, now they're moving on to the second part. And if you've given a good preview, they'll remember. And you can even say, remember I said we were going to talk about this, then this, now's the point where we're talking about this. You can do it more subtly than that, but you can actually be that direct. The point is you want your audience to know where they are. Now there's 2 kinds of transitions: internal transitions and external transitions. Internal transitions are within the same main point, and external transitions are when you're going from one point to the next. For a shorter speech, you're going to be using primarily external transitions, and those should be on your outline, marking the difference from your intro to the body, from each main point of your body, and your body to your conclusion. You would, generally speaking, use internal transitions when you're giving a longer speech. So if you're giving a speech that's 45 minutes, an hour, then you're going to be using internal transitions because each one of those sections is going to be longer. So this is the basic outline. Transitions go between each of these. And this is in the body. So the main body, you've got your main points and your subpoints. Generally speaking, you're looking at 3 to 5 main subpoints, and with 3 to 5 main points with subpoints underneath. You want to have about the same amount of subpoints. If you have 2 and then 1 and then 2, or 2 and then 3 and then 2, that's fine. But if you've got 2 subpoints, then 5 subpoints, then 3 subpoints, then either that first one needs more subpoints, or maybe the second one should be divided into 2 main points. You want to go for about the same amount because you want a certain rhythm to your speech. If you're giving a much longer speech, you're going to have more than 3 to 5. If you're giving a shorter speech, you're going to have less. 3 to 5 works well for something between 7 to 15 minutes. There's different kinds of supporting material you can use. Testimony, analogies, statistics, stories, or examples. So you're going to have a main statement when you say what you're trying to, this is what I'm telling you, and then your supporting material supports that. That's the part that convinces people. You could have a testimony, which is an opinion of an eyewitness or expert. You always want to say why we should listen to that expert and who they are. So for example, in her book Speech Therapy, Dr. Sharon Malone states that you can eliminate the use of and other filler words by simply pausing. That's a testimony. An analogy where you're comparing one thing that the audience would understand to something else that might be harder. Example, a computer is like a human brain because they both process information. A statistic, a numerical collection or fact. This is 60% fact. A story, we talked about that in the introduction, so you can use stories as part of the body as well. An example, any kind of example to illustrate your point. This can be something true, the fact, or it can be an idea. And then the last part is the conclusion. The conclusion of your speech. This should also be written out and memorized, and there's 2 major points to your conclusion. One is a summary. So you go back over what those main points are. So we say, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then remind them what you told them. So tell them what you're going to tell them is the preview, and then the body you tell them, and then in the conclusion you want to review the key points that you tried to get across. Like, what is the takeaway? One way to think about what you want to put in your conclusion is to think, all right, when they walk out, what do I absolutely want them to know? And then you review those points over again in the conclusion. And then you want a powerful concluding statement. Just like you start out with a powerful attention getter, you want a powerful concluding statement, and you want to deliver it in a way that lets the audience know that you're done. So you could say, and you want to deliver it in a way that the audience knows that you're done. Or you could say, and you want to deliver it in a way that the audience knows you're done. Hear the difference? Second one, more powerful concluding statement based only on delivery. Combine content and delivery, and you've got a good conclusion. And then finally, you want to use a bibliography of any material that you used. You want to cite your sources. Generally speaking, we use Turabian or Chicago style unless an instructor or it could be if you're writing in a journal or talking to a particular group, they might give you a different style. So for example, if you're talking to psychologists, they would use APA. And that's all, folks. This is advanced outlining.